You're watching the Defense Dynamics, and I'm Danveer Singh coming to you from New Delhi. Today, there is a critical requirement of a fifth-generation fighter aircraft for the Indian Air Force to counter the Chinese J-20 threat in the subcontinent. Off-the-shelf two fighters, F-35 and Su-57, can be of a great choice till India's AMCA gets to the skies. So what are the real pros and cons? Then Israel's multi-layered air defense shield, Iron Dome, David's Sling and Arrow. How do they actually work? How the aerial threat perception in Indian context differs from Israel, and what is the larger strategic picture? And finally, as India inducts INS Anjadeep, strengthening anti-submarine warfare capability in coastal waters. Why that matters? We will explain, followed by my take on Pakistan-Afghanistan war. Indian Air Force faces a long-term capability challenge. Squadron strength remains below the sanctioned levels. China has inducted the J-20s in growing numbers. Pakistan is modernizing with JF-17 Block 3 and possibly seeking stealth capability. India's indigenous AMCA is progressing but still years away. So the question arises, if India were to consider an interim fifth-generation platform, what are the real pros and cons of F-35 versus Su-57? Fifth generation crossroads, F-35, Su-57, J-20 and India's AMCA future. Air dominance is not decided in a single battle. It is shaped years in advance by procurement, doctrine and technological vision. And today, India faces a defining question. In a rapidly shifting air power environment, how should Indian Air Force bridge the gap between present capability and future ambition? Because the regional equation has changed. The Chinese factor Chengdu J-20. China's J-20 is no longer experimental. It's an operational aircraft. It is being produced in growing numbers and it is evolving. Key capabilities include low observable stealth shaping, advanced AESA radar, long-range PL-15, beyond the visual range missiles, sensor fusion improvements and increasing engine maturity with WS-15 in development. The J-20 is designed less for dogfighting and more for long-range air dominance and standoff engagements. India's present reality. India's frontline fighters like Rafale, Su-30 MKI and Mirage 2000s are highly capable 4.5 generation platforms. But stealth changes detection timelines, stealth changes first look, first shot advantage, and in modern air combat, first detection often defines survival. India's squadron strength remains below sanctioned levels. The pressure of a potential two-front scenario adds complexities. So the debate emerges, should India consider acquiring an interim fifth-generation platform before AMCA becomes operational? American option, F-35 Lightning II. If India were ever to consider the F-35, it would simply be buying an aircraft. It would be entering a tightly controlled US-led combat ecosystem. The F-35's real strength is not just stealth, it is systems integration. It combines advanced low observable shaping, deep sensor fusion, radar, infrared, EW in one operational picture, real-time data sharing, network-centric warfare capability, and combat-proven development across multiple theaters. The F-35 operates with US's autonomic logistics information system and broader software-controlled architecture. Updates, mission data files, and system integration are centrally managed. For India, that raises fundamental questions. How much software sovereignty would New Delhi retain? What mission data libraries be fully Indian controlled? How would the F-35 integrate with India's Russian origin platform like the Su-30 MKI? And how would CATSA dynamics complicate integration? The cost is another dimension. The cost unit has declined over time, but sustainment remains expensive. The F-35 life cycle cost is significant, maintenance infrastructure is sophisticated, operating it requires ecosystem commitment. But it also narrows strategic ambiguity, something India traditionally values. So the F-35 debate is not about whether it is capable. It is undeniably advanced. The real question is, does India want the capability package along with the ecosystem it comes embedded in? Because fifth generation air power is no longer just hardware. It is network access, software architecture, logistics chains, and geopolitical alignment. And once you enter that ecosystem, exiting it is not simple. That is the strategic weight behind F-35 conversation. The Russian option, Sukhoi Su-57. Russia's latest pitch to India is no longer framed as a simple off-the-shelf scale. It is being positioned as a strategic co-production and technology partnership offer. Unlike the earlier FGA model, which India exited over cost, workshare, and capability concerns, Moscow is now signaling greater technology access, possibly licensed production in India, customization, flexibility for Indian Air Force requirements, integration with India-specific weapons, and potential collaboration on engine and avionics evolution. But the critical question remains capability maturity. The Su-57 today is evolving with the newer Italia 30 engine intended to enhance thrust and reduce infrared signature. Radar and avionics upgrades are reportedly ongoing. Russia claims improved stealth shaping and better sensor integration compared to earlier prototypes. Yet production numbers remain limited. Combat validation has been selective, and Russia's defense industry is under strain due to the Ukraine war and sanctions. So the Su-57 offer becomes a strategic calculation. On paper, it promises faster access than waiting for AMCA, greater sovereignty than F-35, and potential industrial participation. But in practice, India must assess, is stealth performance competitive against the J-20s? Is engine development fully stabilized? Can supply chains remain reliable under sanction pressures? Will promised technology transfer translate into real design control? The new Russian pitch is built around partnership, not dependency. The question of India is whether the partnership delivers technological depth or simply another platform layer. Because in the fifth generation era, the gap between promise and performance can define decades of air power balance. The indigenous path, HAL, AMCA. While the debate swirls around F-35 and Su-57, India's most consequential air power decision may not be about buying at all. It may be about building. The Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, or the AMCA, represents India's attempt to enter the exclusive club of nations capable of designing, developing, and producing a fifth-generation stealth fighter. On paper, AMCA is ambitious. A twin-engine stealth multi-role platform designed for deep strike, air dominance, and electronic warfare in contested airspace. Planned features include low observable stealth shaping, internal weapons bays, indigenous AESA radar, sensor fusion, advanced electronic warfare suite, super cruise capability in later blocks, open architecture for future upgrades. But there is a strategic reality. AMCA will take time, even under accelerated timelines. Prototypes may be tested, refined, validated, certified. Flight testing alone can take years. Engine development can take longer. Integration of avionics and stealth coatings requires iteration. Operational induction is realistically projected in the 2030s. In other words, AMCA will not dominate the skies tomorrow. It will take years before it fully touches the skies in operational squadrons. And that is the crux of the dilemma. China's Chengdu J-20 is already flying, evolving and expanding in numbers. India's current frontline fleet remains 4.5 generation. So the question becomes, can India afford the time it needs for AMCA to mature? Because building indigenous stealth is not just about manufacturing an aircraft, it requires mastery over composite materials, indigenous radar development, advanced mission computers, electronic warfare dominance, and eventually a powerful indigenous engine. AMCA is an ecosystem, not a single platform. The first variant may rely on foreign engine as a transitional solution. Later variants aim for deeper indigenous propulsion capability. This is a long game, but it is also a sovereignty game. If AMCA succeeds, India controls its software architecture, its mission data files, its upgrade cycles, and its export policy. No external restriction, no ecosystem dependency. The trade-off is clear. Short-term capability gap versus long-term technological independence. AMCA is not a quick fix, it's a generational investment. This is not just an aircraft decision. It is a 30-year strategic alignment decision. Air power shapes deterrence capability. Deterrence credibility shapes geopolitical leverage. India must ask, is urgency greater than autonomy? Is interoperability more important than sovereignty? Can AMCA timelines be accelerated instead? Because stealth fighters are not just about radar cross-section, they are about strategic positioning in a shifting global order. Modern warfare has changed. The first wave of conflict today is not the tanks crossing the borders. They are the missiles, drones, rockets, and precision strikes targeting cities, air bases, and infrastructure. Israel operates one of the most battle-tested layered air defense systems in the world. They are built not for theory, but for survival. From Iron Dome to David's Sling to Arrow, each layer counters a different class of threat. But here's the larger question. What does Israel's layered defense shield tell us about India's own air defense preparedness, especially in the context of combined China-Pakistan threat matrix? Let's decode the architecture and the lessons. Air defense systems are not built for abstract threats. They are built for real adversaries, real inventories, and real doctrine. Israel's layered shield, Iron Dome, David's Sling, and Arrow reflects a country surrounded by immediate missile threats across multiple ranges. But when we examine India's environment, the comparison becomes more complex, especially when we factor in the combined capabilities of China and Pakistan. Israel's model, layered defense against layered threats. Israel's threat perception includes high-volume rocket saturation, precision-guided medium-range missiles, long-range ballistic missile threats, and to counter this, Iron Dome intercepts short-range rockets targeting urban areas, David's Sling counters cruise missiles and medium-range ballistic threats, and Arrow missiles intercept long-range ballistic missiles, including exo-atmospheric engagements. Israel's geography is compact, its radar grid is tightly integrated, its threat vectors are dense but geographically narrow. Now shift the lens to India. India's threat environment, not one adversary but two. India does not face a single front missile threat. It faces a potential two-front challenge from China in the north and east and Pakistan in the west. Pakistan fields short and medium-range ballistic missiles, cruise missile systems like Babar, expanding drone and loitering munition capabilities, while China fields large conventional ballistic missile inventories, long-range cruise missiles, hypersonic glide vehicle development, integrated air defense suppression doctrine, expanding UAV and electronic warfare capabilities. Now imagine these not as isolated threats but as a coordinated matrix. In a contingency scenario, Pakistan could attempt tactical saturation along the Western Front, while China applies precision, long-range strikes on strategic infrastructure in the north and the east. That creates a combined pressure environment. India's counter architecture. India's layered system includes S-400 Triumph, long-range interception capability, Akash missile system, the medium-range air defense, Barak-8 naval and land-based coverage, and indigenous ballistic missile defense interceptors.
At Vayu Shakti exercise in Pokhran, the Indian Air Force demonstrated integrated air defense, with the S-400 achieving a 300-kilometer intercept during Operation Sindoor, countering Pakistan's PL-15E and China's hypersonic threats. India now plans 5 additional S-400 squadrons across the eastern and western front, boosting readiness for a two-front contingency. Akash and Spider systems are also demonstrated precision against maneuvering targets. Together, these layers are evolving into the Sudarshan Chakra architecture, powered by Israeli sensor fusion for multi-domain integration. Unlike Israel's compact model, India's continental air defense grid is built for scale, depth, and network survivability, especially during the critical early hours of the conflict.
But here lies the sharper strategic challenge. Israel builds for density. India builds for dual front scale. Israel's system is designed to manage saturation from one primary axis at a time. India must consider simultaneous pressures across multiple theaters. That demands distributed radar coverage across thousands of kilometers, hardened air bases, and redundancy. Mobile missile batteries, joint theater-level integration, and seamless coordination between the Army, Air Force, and the Navy. The China-Pakistan synergy factor. China and Pakistan conduct joint military exercises. They share strategic alignment. Technology flows between them. In crisis, operational synchronization, even if not formally coordinated, could create overlapping pressure. For example, Pakistan initiates tactical missile activity in the west. China escalates aerospace pressure along the line of actual control. Cyber and electronic warfare operations disrupt radar networks. Therefore, this is no longer just a layered missile problem. It becomes a system resilience problem. Strategic take. The Israel model teaches layered defense, but India's requirement is layered defense at continental scale under dual front stress. Survivability is the first objective, but survivability under simultaneous multi-theater pressure is the real benchmark. India cannot simply replicate Israel's architecture. It must evolve towards integrated air and missile defense command, multi-domain network resilience, rapid replenishment capability, and indigenous interceptor production scale. Because in a China-Pakistan combined threat scenario, the first 72 hours will not just test missiles. They will test network integrity, command resilience, and interception sustainability. In the modern warfare, whoever maintains decisive coherence shapes offensive opportunity, and that is the strategic takeaway. So the lesson from Israel is clear. No single air defense system is sufficient. Survivability comes from layers. Credibility comes from integration. But India's challenge is larger in scale and more complex in geography. Unlike Israel's compact battlefield, India must defend its vast frontiers potentially against simultaneous pressures from both China and Pakistan, which means the real debate is no longer about acquiring systems, it is about building a fully integrated, resilient, multi-theater air and missile defense grid. Because in modern conflict, the side that survives the first wave shapes the second. And air defense is no longer just protection, it is a deterrence. Naval power is often measured in aircraft carriers and destroyers, but the real contest at sea increasingly lies beneath the surface. As submarine deployments in the Indian Ocean grow, particularly from China, undersea vigilance has become a strategic necessity, and it's not a luxury. This week, the Indian Navy has inducted INS Anjadeep, part of anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft program. It may not grab headlines like a carrier battle group, but in modern maritime strategy, protecting the coastline can be just as important as projecting power outwards. Let's take a closer look. The threat perception. India's maritime threat environment is evolving. China's People's Liberation Army Navy has steadily increased submarine deployments in the Indian Ocean. From nuclear-powered submarines to conventional platforms, Chinese undersea presence, whether for patrol, surveillance or signaling, has grown. At the same time, Pakistan operates submarines capable of both conventional and potential sea-based deterrence roles. Now imagine a crisis scenario. Deep water submarines position themselves in sea lanes, coastal approaches become vulnerable, naval bases and commercial ports face surveillance or disruption risks. The threat is not visible, it is acoustic, and acoustic dominance defines undersea control. What INS Anjadeep brings. INS Anjadeep is part of the anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft program designed specifically for littoral and coastal environments. It is not meant to replace destroyers or frigates, it is meant to specialize. The capabilities include hull-mounted sonar for underwater detection, lightweight torpedoes for submarine engagement, anti-submarine rockets, mine-laying capabilities, and close coastal surveillance. Shallow waters are acoustically complex. Submarines can hide near choke points, ports, and shipping lanes. Large blue water combatants are not optimized for this environment. Specialized anti-submarine warfare shallow water crafts are. The China-Pakistan dimension. In a combined threat scenario, undersea pressure could complement aerial or missile escalation. China's long-term submarine patrols in the Indian Ocean create strategic signaling. Pakistan's submarine capability creates tactical coastal vulnerability. India must therefore prepare for intelligence gathering near naval bases, potential sea lane disruptions, undersea positioning in crisis, and strategic choke point pressure. This is not hypothetical. This is contingency planning, and contingency planning demands layered maritime defense.
On February 27, in Chennai, Indian Navy Chief Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi commissioned INS Anjadeep. INS Anjadeep is the fourth anti-submarine warfare shallow water craft of the Indian Navy. This platform strengthens India's coastal defense against submarine threats from China and Pakistan. The vessel is specially designed for shallow water operations where complex acoustics make submarine detection challenging. INS Anjadeep operates in coordination with P-8I maritime surveillance aircraft, creating a layered maritime deterrence grid. Amid rising strategic competition in the Indian Ocean, INS Anjadeep enhances India's acoustic dominance and reduces the risk of undersea miscalculation.
Strategic context. India has invested in aircraft carriers for power projection, destroyers and frigates for blue water dominance, P-8I maritime patrol aircraft for long-range surveillance. INS Anjadeep strengthens the innermost layer, coastal defense. Naval strategy must operate in concentric circles, outer ring for power projection, middle ring for sea control, and inner ring for coastal security and anti-submarine warfare vigilance. INS Anjadeep fortifies that inner ring. Strategic take. Aircraft carriers project strength, but anti-submarine warfare platforms protect sovereignty. In modern maritime conflict, the first sign of escalation may not be visible on the surface, it may be detected through sonar. And in undersea warfare, detection equals deterrence. because the site that controls the acoustic environment controls escalation stability. INS Anjadeep strengthens the silent shield guarding India's coastline. INS Anjadeep represents a quiet but critical layer of India's maritime defense. Aircraft carriers project strength across oceans, but anti-submarine warfare platforms protect what matters most: ports, sea lanes, and coastal infrastructure. As Chinese submarine presence expands in the Indian Ocean region, India's undersea awareness also must expand with it. Because in maritime warfare, the most dangerous threat is often the one you cannot see, and deterrence begins with detection. Over the past several weeks, tensions along Pakistan-Afghanistan border have escalated sharply. Cross-border exchanges of fire have intensified, and what began as sporadic incident has evolved into a sustained military confrontation. Pakistan has carried out air and artillery strikes against the alleged Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan hideouts inside Afghan territory. This has further restrained their relations, and a significant escalation has taken place. Afghanistan's defense ministry now claims that its air force has conducted precise aerial strikes on multiple Pakistani military bases, including Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, the 12th Division headquarters in Quetta, and Kawazai Camp in Muhammad Agency of the Frontier region. If confirmed, this would mark a dramatic widening of the conflict beyond border skirmishes into a direct strike on high-value military targets. Kabul has paired its rhetoric with military mobilization near the Durand Line, while diplomatic channels remain strained and mutual trust has eroded to near zero. The frequency and intensity of violence suggests that this is no longer a routine friction between two uneasy neighbors. It is a rapidly escalating security crisis with potentially far-reaching consequences. For India, the equation becomes more complex. A Pakistan stretched westward may be strategically constrained, but it may also be more volatile. For the region, the risk is spillover, militancy, refugee flows, arms movement, and strategic unpredictability. History teaches us this very clearly. Proxy strategies rarely end cleanly. They unravel slowly and often violently. Pakistan-Afghanistan tensions today are not an isolated crisis. They are the visible symptoms of a deeper structural failure in regional strategy. And once structural instability sets in, reversing it requires a far more effort than military strikes. It requires a complete rethink, and that's the bottom line. Summing up this episode, we looked at the future of air power, F-35, Su-57, China's J-20, and India's AMCA path. We examined layered air defense in context of China-Pakistan threat matrix. We assessed undersea vigilance through INS Anjadeep, and we unpacked the strategic instability unfolding in Pakistan-Afghanistan region. Different theaters, one common theme. Deterrence now depends on integration, resilience, and strategic clarity. That's all for this edition of Defense Dynamics. Stay strategic, take care, and goodbye.